Good job. So in case you haven't seen Breaking Dawn Part 2 yet, I'm going to give you a full-on summary. Alright, and you're thinking, why would somebody want to watch a summary? They've seen it or they're going to see it. Well, you know, maybe it's been out for a month, and maybe people are like, oh, you know, I don't know if I want to see it, I don't want to see it. Or if it's that guy that's like trying to impress that girl and he's like, oh, I wish I knew about these talking points because she doesn't care about sports. Well, here you go, okay? And I might be a little rusty because I saw it like a month ago when right after it first came out. And you're like, oh wow, you saw it when it first came out. Meh. Well, the reason I did is because my wife wanted me to go, and she was like, oh, let's go see it. And it wasn't like, oh, let's go see it, I'm really excited about it. It was like, let's go see it because it's like that girl that a girl was best friends with in high school, and then they didn't talk much through college or after, but they were such good friends in high school, she had to put her in her wedding. It was like a bridesmaid thing. But then they like both have the understanding that like, after I make you a bridesmaid, I don't really have to talk to you ever again, except for maybe if like you post something on Facebook, I can like it occasionally to let you know we're still here. Okay, full-on summary Breaking Dawn. So it opens with these credits that are like really like elaborate and graphic-y. It's kind of nice how they put in their, what, 5th movie, they went completely different on the intro and made it all like coolish. Yeah, okay. Try to keep the same intro throughout the whole series, a la Harry Potter did it. Anyways, so they're going through these graphics and it's telling you all the people that have been in it for the whole time anyways, plus a few people are going to come in with like weird tall necklaces. And then it opens up, and I think the last place it left was where Bella's eyes opened, and she's like got red eyes. She's, oh my god, she's a vampire. So she comes in and she comes out, she wakes up, she's like, hey everybody, I'm Bella, I'm Kristen Stewart. Now I'm wearing makeup, so I'm supposed to look prettier as a vampire, because I heard they didn't put makeup on her throughout the whole first several movies to make her like even prettier as a vampire, to like make the change. And so Edward, I think, comes in and he's like, hey, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm good, thanks. And then she's like, where's my baby? Oh, Renesmee. And like, oh wow, it's the worst combination of two already weird names. Might as well call her like Franken Baby, because she's just a combination of all this weird junk, like a human and a vampire, whatever. And I don't know what comes first. She sees some people. I think Jacob comes up there first, maybe. I don't know. At some point, the part in the movie happens whenever you saw in the trailer for like what, the past 9 months. In the trailer, he's like, I didn't expect to see you. You were so normal. And so, like, yeah, she is normal. She's just wearing makeup, dude. Okay. I mean, you saw Edward forever, and he's just a dude who's like paler and can run fast. And it's like, but I guess he could have done that as a human. Anyways, oh, they should make another one where it's like him as a human before, like back in like the 1910s or whatever, and he's just like, hey, I'm just a regular dude, see if he was cool or not. I forgot how I think he got malaria or something. I don't know, it was a long time ago. Diseases were super mean back then. Anyway, so she's like talking to Jacob's like, I want to protect her. Oh, it's because you're in love with her, Jacob, and she's a baby. And so she goes and she sees her baby at some point, and her baby is like this super fake CGI looking baby, and they're like, and she's like, and she looks like a gummy bear, like a glazed over donut gummy bear, and she's like touching people's faces. It's freaky. It's like Chucky, but without the red hair and freckles, okay? And so she's like, oh, this is my baby, I like babies now. She's still like 17, okay, isn't she? I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so she has this kid in like 2 weeks, and the kid is like a super CGI baby. I don't see how it hurts so much coming out. CGI looks super soft and like easy to like hug and stuff. So they're going, and the chick that was in 13 with the original director, who kind of got stuck in the prettiest role, which she's pretty, but like her character's supposed to be like, oh, pretty. But they're like, Alice is prettier than her. Am I right? And Kristen Stewart's probably, I don't know. They're all pretty. That's for sure. I mean, they're prettier than I am, obviously. Alright, but still, it's just like, whatever. Her role has been so subdued since the first, because she didn't ever live up to kind of what she's supposed to be. And then, like, Emmett, who was, like, actually, like, a good casting call, and he's like, wow, like, bowed up. That was my bowed up. And, anyways, Rob Pattinson's somewhere. Who cares? And they're like, oh, it's a baby. And then it's the part where in the book she's supposed to like jump at Jacob, and then Seth like gets in the way and it like knocks him against a wall or something. And it's supposed to be like, oh yeah, she's strong now. Werewolves can't beat her up. Like she was so weak before. Well, she goes out, she starts punching Jacob. But you know it's so unrealistic because as soon as she walks out, like Kristen Stewart, you can tell is like pigeon-toed, like her feet stick out, and you can tell like she's supposed to be like super like graceful now, but she still can tell she would trip if she was running a 5K, like trip everywhere. Like she'd be trying to grab the water as they like pass by, like, oh, the water, thank you for the water. And she'd be like, drop all the water out before she got it. She probably might hit she's underwater. It's an underwater 5K. And so she's punching Jacob around. She hits Seth, which is really mean. If you notice the whole movie, Seth and Leah, apparently somebody was asking for too much money because those two were not in there. And they were a pretty big part of what, the second movie? Yeah, you never see their faces in this one. All you see them is as the CGI dogs. And then at the Christmas thing at her dad's, like all you see is the back of their heads. So looks like somebody asked for a little too much money and or decided to quit acting and become like selling real estate or something. Like the guy from Airborne, the rollerblading movie, he sells real estate in Texas, which he was awesome. Anyways, so after that, it has her and Edward like running through the woods, and you don't want to like criticize this because in the first movie it was just so bad. It was like, here, let's put the camera on a tripod and then just hit fast forward, just watch it, and it looks like he's running on top of like like on top of the like bushes and stuff. It's like, no, you still need to touch the ground, and like there's no like jumping. It's like he can't run that smooth even if he's fast. And so they're running through the woods and they're like jumping through the air, and they're just like, oh look, there's a deer or something, or I don't know. And then she sees this like rock climber guy out in the middle of nowhere. How convenient. And he's like, oh, scratch my arm. And she's like super zoom sees he's got blood on his arm. She's like running, just like crawling up at like some like Venom in the third Spider-Man movie. And she's like, and she's crawling up. She's like, I'm gonna eat this rock climber guy. And then Edward's like, no. And the rock climber guy doesn't even notice it at all. There's like no other sounds out there, but he can't hear this like tarantula spider monkey lady crawling up the side of the rock trying to attack him. He never notices. And then she's like, no, I don't need to do this. So you're like, oh wow, she doesn't like want to, she can control herself. She doesn't want to eat people. Oh good, great. All right. Anyways, so she like jumps down. Edward's like, wow, that's really good. A lot of people couldn't have done that, even like vampires for a long time. Okay, I would think it'd be easier not to, because you just came off of being human. So you just came off of being a vegetarian, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna eat a steak. But then you're like, I've just spent like 17 years being a vegetarian. I think it'd be easier not to eat steak. Like after you've eaten steak for like 40 years, or for some of these vampires, about like 200, 300 years, you eat steak. Steak's gonna be kind of part of your like little repertoire of things you eat. So it's like something you're used to. And so anyways, after that, like go and they hang out with CGI baby for a while. Who cares? She's super creepy looking. Like I'm just like, please, I know she's supposed to grow up faster, so let her start growing up fast. And so she ages fast. I forgot, I don't know if you had, she ages fast, the little baby does, because it's like half vampire, half human. So the baby essentially ages fast and then stops at 17. Like they find out at the end. Who cares? Oh, you're watching this, so I'm gonna tell you the ending. So it's supposed to age until they're 17 and then quit. Oh, how convenient, since everybody in this show is supposed to be like a 17-year-old attractive person, which I think Robert Pattinson's almost 30 or is 30. Okay, so they're still playing 17-year-olds. Goodness gracious, in Hollywood it's like you can play down to 17 up until you're like 35. I guess it's because they moisturize or something. So anyways, they're doing stuff, and then Alice like sees that she's supposed to like get attacked, or that they're all gonna get the Volturi are coming to attack them and stuff, and she drops something. Okay, look, Alice should not be allowed to carry things if she's gonna dramatically drop them every time she sees a flag. Like that's her power. Like she sees into the future. It's gotta happen a lot. So why does she always she's always dropping stuff? All right, it's bad. There's like only when bad stuff happens. Bad stuff always happens to these people. Okay, it's literally the universe saying Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart should not be together in this movie. Okay, be like, they should just be like, okay, all right. Anyways, and so Kristen Stewart's dad, or Bella's dad, comes by. Charlie comes by, and it's the dude, Billy Burks. Sounds like Brandon. You remember the Billy Banks? One of them's the Tybo guy. One of them's the guy from Revolution. All right, and he's like the guy from Revolution, but he's a lot like crummier at fighting, and he doesn't have a mustache. And so he goes in, and he's like, Jacob tells him, he shows him he's a big dog, and essentially he's like insinuating like, hey, guess what? Your Bella's a freak now, so just be prepared for that. And he goes over, and it's like, I don't know. In the books, he kind of knows that that's their daughter. It's his granddaughter. In this one, they didn't insinuate it very well. They said it's like his niece, her niece. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? Okay, books trump movies. So let's say he knows. And so they're going through, and then they find out, Alice, drops it. And then Alice and creepy Jasper leave. And they're just like, Jasper's like, that's all he does the whole series. And they leave. They're like, oh, we gotta go by. And they leave and leave a note from a book. And Bella takes her like the whole 2.5 hours of the movie to figure out, the page of the book that the person who would never leave us left for, it translates to something that's gonna happen. Yeah, no crap, Bella. Have you ever seen any movie ever? Oh my goodness, they're so naive. Anyways, and so at some point, Bella and Edward like slow-mo kiss, because now they're vampires and they get to like hang out all the time, hang out all the time. And so that happens, and it's like Magic Mike Part 2. And so they hang out, and somebody watches the baby on like the first night. It's like, look, it's your kid. Hang out with your kid, okay, for the first night. Well, that's creepy CGI baby, so I can see why they don't want to hang out with them. And so they're hanging out, and they do all that business. I don't know, with their probably playing Monopoly or something. And then after that, they're starting preparing. Alice might have seen it afterwards. She probably saw it afterwards so that they could hang out that night and not worry about it. And so they go back, and they're like, oh, what are we going to do? Alice left, and we got to prepare for the Volturi. And so they're like, I don't know, let's ask all of our friends to potentially die for us. And so they go around and ask all of Carlisle's friends. Carlisle's friends. So something's going to happen to Carlisle later. And so they're like, Carlisle's friends. And they go around, they see all of Carlisle's friends, and they get to meet all these different characters, these different vampires. Some of them are like, no thanks, I'm good, I don't want to die. And the other one's like, ooh, he has special powers too. And then there's like pauses of like, oh, special powers, frame back to them. Special powers, oh, back to them, special powers. You can move water, who cares? Okay, they're vampires, they don't drown in water. It's like, oh, wow, swim. Alright, and then they go back, and they're like all gathering at the house, and they're like, oh, let's all gather up to fight these people. And then they like these two like German dudes like show up, and like Jacob and the Clearwaters chase them, and obviously the vampire dudes outdo them because they're like really old, and apparently they used to be like bad guys back in the day. They're something, and then the Volturi ticked them off, so they're not really want to be good, they just want to kill the Volturi. And so they're like, oh, we'll help you, and they're like, we don't really want you to because you weren't invited. It's like, really, take anybody you can get because you're gonna have to fight at the end. And so a lot of junk happens in meeting all these people. I don't remember any of them's names, and some of them have powers that are neat. And so you're like, okay, they're going to get to fight. Because the big thing is, regular vampires are just kind of seen as like, oh, who cares, you're going to get smoked. Except for a couple like really good fighters in the Volturi. But everybody else is like, if you don't have a power, you're pretty much like, it's like playing in the NBA, and like the only experience you have is that you were on the checkers team in high school. And so the people with powers are like ones that can like make stuff go over your eyes and you can't see. And then they're like, oh, they find out that Bella can like she can block out other people's powers, like other people can't affect her, which is a big deal because essentially it's a fight of powers. So she's like supposed to be strong because she's like a newborn, and also she can block out powers. So it's like, oh, that's cute. And then she realizes, oh, I can project this power onto other people, which is like super convenient to do if you're about to get in essentially a powers fight. Because they didn't say it in the movie, I don't think, but in the book it says that used to they would just like the Volturi would show up. If anything would happen, like one of them would put like this blank darkness over everybody's head, and then the other one would just like kill everybody, and it was essentially just like picking them off. And so they're like, oh, if Bella can do this, maybe we'll stand a chance. And trying to make Bella feel important. And so they work on her, trying to get her powers built up, and then some more people show up, and this awesome like Southern Revolution dude shows up. And it would have been awesome is if Billy Burke's character from Revolution was the guy that had fought in the Revolution, and he was like showed up and he was like, hey, I look like that guy, but I'm not. I'm from Revolution. We'll just maybe for the next one, maybe for the reboot in a couple years, for the Twilight reboot. And so they're out there and they're working on their powers and kind of like, hey, we're friends, we should hang out more, whatever. And then at the end, or not the end, we're almost the end. And then let's skip. Okay, the Volturi get there, and so the Volturi show up and they're in this big cold field, which is like, seriously, that's like the fighting strategy back in the Revolutionary War, back whenever people used to just like, here we are, shoot, bam, bam, dead. Like, that's like the worst ever. Like, they came up with like the double envelope where you weaken your middle and you go around the outside and you attack from the sides, and you can like surround the enemy. Nobody has like caught on to this. They've been alive for thousands of years, and no one's caught on to like fighting strategies. Let's just be more powerful. It's like arm wrestling, whenever you can just like come in behind them and get them. Whatever. So they're standing there and they're like, please don't hurt us. This is not a bad baby. And then the Volturi are thinking, they're like, we could this is a pretty big group that Carlisle's assembled. Like, we want to be the most powerful. We need to cut down groups. So essentially what they do, we found out they like go and they pick out people with powers, and they use that as an excuse to kill everybody else. They make them an excuse, kill everybody and take the people with powers. So they want Alice. That's why Alice disappears. She comes back here in a second. And so she comes back out there and she like walks out there, and they like walk forever, which is like, you seem super dramatic because they can cut the camera, but if this is in real life, they're just walking. They have super speed, which doesn't make them tired, but they're walking. Like, that would have been like a solid 5 minutes of everybody watching them walk out there, because it was a long walk. And her and Jasper's like just walking like he does. And they get out there and she starts talking to the dude, and then she like says, they're gonna fight anyways, blah blah, run. And then like they grab Alice and like they take her, and then Carlisle freaks out and he's like, no, and like runs at him. And then the main Volturi guy jumps and like rips off Carlisle's head, and he's dead. And you're like, what? This wasn't in the book? Because in the book, it was like they just showed up, and other people showed up, and they were like, oh wow, you have a lot of people here. And they were like, yeah, we're not gonna fight you today. Maybe in the future we will, but not today. And that was the end of the book. The book was the worst ending ever. The books are like, okay, like I can get into the story, whatever. And at the end, it's just like so anticlimactic. Like, it'd be like if Harry Potter, if Voldemort just like walked up and was like, Harry and Voldemort and the whole teams got together, and then Voldemort was like, I don't think we should fight today. And they just turned around and walked off. Like, that was the equivalent of the fourth book in Twilight. Oh, and at some point she went and saw a lawyer to get something. It was a passport to send Jacob and her daughter out, but not her. Oh my gosh, I might die for my daughter. No freaking crap, lady. Save your daughter's life. And so they're out there, and Carlisle runs, gets his head ripped off, and then everybody freaks out. And that was a pretty cool scene. Like, Edward, I like Rob Pattinson. He's a pretty decent actor. I think he got stuck in these roles, and he knows he did. And but it's gotten him famous and money, so he can do whatever he wants now because he has the money to. And he did it really well. He's like, oh, and it was like slow-mo, and they did that really well. And they had this fight scene, and Jacob and Renesmee like take off into the woods. Jacob wants to be there, like kicking tail, and I'll just tell their little story. A vampire takes off after them, and it's running, and Jacob like sees in his head, he sees like Seth get killed, I think, and the vampire like comes at him, and Jacob literally with Renesmee on his back like flips over, rips off the vampire's head, and then just keeps running again. And it's like, wow, Jacob is bad to the bone. You are the best. Like, in the movies, it doesn't project how awesome he is. In the books, he's like super funny, which is a super relief to like Edward and Bella's like super naive and like, oh, do you like me? Do you like me? You're married to each other. Yes, they like you. Oh my goodness, it's so irritating. But Jacob in the book's great. And in the movie, he rips off the dude's head, and he just wishes he was fighting, but he's not. So he runs off with Renesmee. And so they're fighting out there, and let's see, Carlisle died. They catch Jasper, rip his head off, and then they just start picking off all the main people. Like, the German dudes kill one of the top three, and the guy's like, finally. And we're like, finally, because you're getting on our nerves because you got weird, creepy hair. And before they started, Maggie Grace, the chick from Lost and from Taken, she is the one that ratted out Edward and Bella. And so, like, they're standing there, and they're like, oh, she's not an immortal baby. And so they, like, rip her up and set her on fire. How awesome would it have been as if like right before they ripped up Maggie Grace, like Liam Neeson came out and he was like, I have a very particular set of skills. And then like started like fighting all of them as the Taken guy, and he was like beating them all up. That would have made this a pretty awesome movie. And anyways, they ripped her up. Okay, back to the fight. Now they're fighting and they're picking off all the important people, and I think like a couple like wolves died, like Seth and Leah both died. Carlisle has gotten his head ripped off. Jasper died. And then they start picking off all the special people for the Volturi, and Bella's like pushing the force over and like covering up people so they're okay. And they're fine, and Alice gets out there and fights after like 10 minutes of just hanging out, and then she takes on those people. It's like, why didn't you do that at the beginning? You could have helped. But I guess she can see the future, so we can't question her. And so they're fighting, and then essentially everybody dies except for like the main Volturi guy, and he like starts attacking like Bella and Edward, and they're just like, Bella and Edward like team up and do this, like they're like, yeah, and they like nod at each other. They got time to nod even though the main Volturi guy's like supposed to be fast as lightning. And they're like, let's do this thing where we swing you around. And so he like swings her around and she kicks him, and then like she stands on his head and rips it off. Pretty cool scene. Okay, and then they like go to throw it set on fire, and it's like going at the main guy's face, and then he's like wake, and you realize, oh, this is all something he saw when he touched Alice, and he saw into like the future of what would happen, that all of his people would die, and all they do is kill like a couple of like kind of on the fringe main characters. And so he was like, oh yeah, let's back out, let's not do this. And he was like, okay, no. And the other brother was like, brother, should we kill them? And we should kill them all. And he's like, no, we're good. Look, come on now, we don't need to do anything, just trust me. And so they end up backing off, and they go home, and then everybody's like happy because nobody died, because Stephanie Meyer didn't want to kill anybody in the books, but in the movie they didn't want to. They were like, the other producers were like, okay, look, this would be the lamest movie ever if nobody fights. So they're like, oh, boom. So whoever had that idea, give them a raise. Seriously, that was like the best idea ever. All right, hire them on Hunger Games, even though Hunger Games is awesome as it is, but still, they have great ideas. Listen to them. All right, so that's it. And then they like go out, and everybody's like, oh, we won. How great that we won. And then they're like, CGI babies, not CGI baby. I think they're really just celebrating that CGI baby doesn't look like it. It's like a girl now. And then like somebody flashed in the future. It might be Alice or something, I don't remember. And it turns out Jacob and that girl fall in love, because Jacob's like in love with her the whole time, but he's like her protector until a certain age. And then they love each other. And she looks like the chick from Crazy Stupid Love, who like fell in love with Steve Carell's character, but his son liked. And she looks like her, but like taller, and like it's just weird. And anyways. And so they fall in love, and everybody live happily ever after, because that's how they end things. And essentially, this end of the series, unless like Stephanie Meyer runs out of money and is like, oh, I'll write some more to make money. So you don't have to go see it, or if you did, you just saw it again.